Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me in today's edition of the Daf Yomi. Today we're going to talk about Menachot Daf 91 Amud B. The main focus of our Daf today is a seemingly simple question, but one that's profound implications and requirements of libation, Nusachim, and meal offerings, Menachot, that accompany various animal sacrifices. We are presented with a brighter that poses a very specific question. From where do we learn that a Nazarite's peace offering requires these accompanying offerings? We learned that the sin offering and a burnt offering do not. So why should the peace offering be different? The Gemara in its glorious fashion gives us a series of answers, each one a different approach to dissecting the verses. We'll see how the rabbis argue over the precise meaning of the words like the one and the sacrifice. There are distinctions between a peace offering of a Nazir and a regular peace offering, and even a peace offering that is part of an animal type. We also see how the Gemara brings in other types of offerings, such as a burnt offering of a woman who gave birth, to try and find a consistent rule. Just dive straight in. So we'll just go from the end of the last Amud. The Gemara suggests, and then they tend to divide both the sin offering and the guilt offering to the word sacrifice alone, without relating to the word or. This would be just as the Master said in the bride concerning a Nazarite. A Nazarite completes his term of Nazariteship is required to shave his hair and bring various offerings. With regard to his shaved hair, the verse states, and he shall take the hair of his Nazarite head and put it on the fire, which is under the sacrifice of peace offerings. Numbers 6:18. The Brisa asks, from where is it derived that if instead of putting his hair on the fire under the peace offering, he puts it on the fire under his sin offering or under his guilt offering, he still fulfills his obligation? The verse states the sacrifice was supposed to include these two offerings. Evidently, the term sacrifice refers to both a sin offering and a guilt offering. Why does the Brisa concerning a leper derive a guilt offering only from the word or? The Gemara explains, this matter that both a sin offering and a guilt offering can be derived from the same term applies only where they are both brought together for the same purpose as the case of the Nazarite. Both offerings serve to render him fit. In the case of a pure Nazarite, to partake of wine and cut his hair, and in the case of an impure Nazarite, to begin counting the term of Nazariteship again. But in the case of a leper, where his guilt offering serves to render him fit to return to the camp, and the sin offering turns to atone for the sin that was the cause of his leprosy, since they come for two different purposes, we need two verses, sources, teach about the two of them. The Gemara once again questions the derivation of the Brisa. The sacrifice, this is referring to a sin of a leper. The Gemara asks, and how does the Brisa know this? I could say that instead of this referring to the sin offering and guilt offering of a Nazarite, the sin offering is brought by a Nazarite who completes his term of Nazariteship, and the guilt offering is brought by a Nazarite who becomes ritually impure. Accordingly, only those offerings of a Nazarite require libations, but not the burnt offerings of a leper. The Gemara rejects this possibility. This should not enter your mind, as it said in the Brisa. In describing the offerings of a Nazarite brings upon completion of his term of Nazariteship, the verse states, and he shall sacrifice his offering to the Lord, one unblemished male lamb in its year as a burnt offering, and one unblemished female lamb in its year as a sin offering, and one unblemished ram as peace offerings, and the meal offering and the libations in Numbers 6:14 to 15. The Brisa explains that it is with regard to his burnt offering and his peace offering mentioned in that passage that the verse speaks, and so it is only those Nazarite offerings that require libations. Do you say that the verses speak with regard to his burnt offering and his peace offering, or perhaps the verse speaks even with regard to the sin offering that the Nazarite brings if he becomes ritually impure? To preclude the possibility of explaining the verse in that way, the verse states in the subsequent verses, and he shall make the ram a sacrifice of a peace offering to the Lord with the basket of unleavened bread, and the priest shall offer his meal offering and his libations. In Numbers 6:16 to 17. None of our offering was already included with the other peace offering, which require libations. Why then was it singled out in this verse with an independent statement teaching that it requires libations? It was in order to equate all of the offerings to it, teaching that the requirement of libation apply only to offerings similar to it. Just as a ram is distinct, and that can come in fulfillment of a vow or gift offering, so too any offering that can come in fulfillment of a vow or as a gift offering requires libations. This excludes the sin offering and guilt offering of a Nazarite, as they cannot be bought as vow offerings or gift offerings. The Gemara questions another of the derivation in the Braita. The burnt offering, this is referring to the burnt offering of a leper. The Gemara asks, and how does the Braita know this? I could say instead that this is referring to the burnt offering of a woman who gave birth to verses 12:6, and then still there would be no source to require libation for the burnt offering of a leper. And Bai said, the requirement to bring libations with the burnt offering of a woman who gave birth is derived from the end of that verse, so the term the burnt offering mentioned just before it remains available to include the burnt offering of a leper in the requirement for libations. This is as it taught in the Braita. The verse states, and the wine for pouring libations, according to him, you should prepare with burnt offering or for the sacrifice or for one lamb, Numbers 15:5. Rabbi Nathan says, for the one lamb, this is referring to the burnt offering of a woman who gave birth and includes the offering and the requirement for libations. This is referring to the 11th animal of the animal tithe, which is sacrificed as a peace offering. If one was tithing its flock by releasing them from their pen one by one, and we call the 11th, 10th, is consecrated. This is not whether he did so by mistake or on purpose. The animal sacrifice as a peace offering requires libation of a peace offering in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Nathan and the Rambam say Kabbalah 8:1-2. In order to tithe his animals, the owner counts them one by one, and every 10th animal is consecrated as an animal tithe. If one counting outstanding counts the 10th as the 9th and the 11th as the 10th, both consecrated, the former as the animal tithe and the latter as a peace offering. The Braita comments, it is necessary to have an independent derivation to teach that the 11th animal requires libation, because we do not find a halacha like that in the entire Torah, in which the ancillary case is more stringent than the principal case. In this case, the animal tithe offering itself does not require libation. The Gemara presents another answer. Rabbi says the verse is expounded to be referring to three different offerings and includes them in the requirement to bring libations. It is reasonable that the three offerings all share an association with each other. What is the only matter in which the three offerings are brought that would necessitate the three inclusions to teach that each require libations? You must say that this is the offerings of a leper who brings three different offerings. It is further stated in the passage concerning libations, or for a ram, we should prepare a meal offering of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil, in Numbers 15:6-7. It is on the meal offering brought with the ram are also mentioned elsewhere, and the 2/10 of fine flour for meal offering for one ram, Numbers 28:12. Therefore, the Gemara asks, why do I need the verse here to state this? Menachot says this verse serves to include the requirement for libation the ram of Aaron, and the ram of the high priest, that is sacrificed as a burnt offering on Yom Kippur. The Gemara challenges the requirement to bring libation with the ram of Aaron should be derived from the term on your festivals, Numbers 15:3, as the Braita derived from that term that all obligatory offerings at festivals require libations. The Gemara resolves this challenge. It is necessary to have an independent derivation for the ram of Aaron, and it might enter your mind to say that this matter, that obligatory offerings of festivals require libations, applies only to communal offerings, but not to offerings of an individual, such as the ram of Aaron. The Gemara questions this. Why would one think that because the ram of Aaron is an offering of an individual who will not require libation, in what way is it different from the burnt offering of a woman who gave birth? The commentaries explain that the Gemara is not stressing that the halacha of the ram high priest should be derived from the halacha of a burnt offering of a woman after childbirth. Since it is clear that a separate derivation is necessary for each offering, it is as is the case for the offerings of the Nazarite and the burnt offering of parents, among others. Rather, the Gemara's difficulty concerns the claim that the halacha of the ram of the high priest cannot be derived from the term of your festivals, and one would have thought that only communal offerings require libations. The Gemara questions this distinction. The burnt offering of a woman after childbirth requires libations, despite the fact that it is an obligatory offering brought by an individual. Instead, the case of the ram of the high priest can in fact be derived from the term on your festivals. Some commentators maintain that the Gemara is in fact proposing that the halacha of a ram of the high priest can be derived from the halacha of the burnt offering of a woman after childbirth. That's the passage from the Sifat evidence here to that. Excuse me. This is also when an individual requires libation. It might be right to say that this matter, the conclusion drawn for the halacha of the burnt offering of a woman in birth, that even offerings of an individual require libations, applies only to an offering that does not have a fixed time when it must be sacrificed. And an offering that has a fixed time when it must be sacrificed, I might say that it does not require libations. Accordingly, it is necessary to have an independent derivation that teaches us that the Ram of Aaron requires libations. The Gemara continues to expand the verse cited. Why do I need the word or in the phrase or for a ram? The Gemara explains it serves to include the sacrifice of palges. What's that? The Torah describes two types of male sheep that are brought as offerings: a lamb and a ram. A sheep is considered a lamb when it is 8 days old, until it is 1 year old, and it becomes a ram when it is in its second year. With regard to a palges, there is a dispute among the commentators. Some say that a sheep that has a stage of palges throughout the 13th month, others maintain that it is called a palges only on the 30th day of the 13th month. You want to say, 114, although some say that the Rambam actually agreed with the opinion of Rashi, yet others claim that it was called a palges throughout its second year, and that's in the sheet of Mechubeses. And the footnotes here. If a leper sacrifices a palges for his obligatory offering, he brings the libation of a ram with it, but he has not fulfilled his obligation. Rambam would say, 2:6. Palges from the Greek parax, meaning an intermediate age between childhood and adulthood. And the requirement to bring libations, when referring to sheep, the Torah speaks only of lambs and rams. A sheep during its first 12 months is called a lamb, and one older than 13 months is called a ram. A palges is a sheep in its 13th month, and is never explicitly mentioned by the Torah. It is therefore unnecessary to have an independent derivation to teach that if one sacrificed, libation must be brought with it. The Gemara raises a difficulty. These works are well according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, who says that a palges is considered an independent entity, i.e. it is not regarded as a lamb or a ram, as we learned in a Mishnah in Parah 1:3. One is obligated to sacrifice a lamb or ram and sacrifice a palges should bring it with it the libations that are required when bringing a ram. Nevertheless, the sacrifice is not considered fulfillment of his obligation to bring an offering of a ram or a lamb. And commenting on this Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan says that the requirement to bring libations in this case is derived from the phrase or for the ram, which serves to include the sacrifice of a palges. But the need for an independent derivation is difficult according to the opinion of Bar Pata, as he said that in the Mishnah's case, the individual brings the libations of a ram, but stipulates concerning them if a palges is a ram, then all the libations should be regarded as its libations, and if a palges is a lamb, then the quantity of those libations required for a lamb should be regarded as its libations, and the rest should be regarded as a gift offering, because they hold that a palges is either a lamb or a ram, but that it is uncertain to us which it is. This Fakehu, the commentators explain that according to the opinion of Bar Pata, who maintain that it is uncertain whether a palges is a lamb or a ram, one brings 2 meal offerings in 2 separate vessels. In one, he brings 2/10 of an eighth of flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil, according to the halacha of a ram offering, while in the other he places 1/10 of an eighth of flour mixed with 1/4 hin of oil, in according to the halacha of a lamb offering. He then stipulates that one of the meal offerings should be for his obligation, while the other is a gift offering. With regard to the wine libations, he brings 1/3 of a hin of wine and stipulates if the animal is a ram, then all of this is one libation. If it is a lamb, then 1/4 hin of this wine is for my obligation, while the remainder of the wine is for a gift offering. Tatzva to the Rashi. However, according to Bar Pata, one can ask, is it necessary to include an uncertain case? Although it is not known how to categorize the palges, it is